characteristic is more like it's a mixture of East and West. Because in KL we see a lot of like new and old overlapping, but then in Penang is more like a hybrid of East and West, like two cultures come together. Him Bus Company, in the 40s they used to be an old bus station. So in him, this signage we call it plaster relief. So it's like embedded on the building. So this building is in Art Deco architectural style. The font style is in block lettering, and you can see it's all like straight lines. There's no curved line. Probably because of the technical restriction that form the aesthetic. That actually those old signages that you see in Georgetown, they were made by sign makers. This is one of them. I have a chat with the son briefly. The father already passed away. The father started this 广告社, and then his father is actually apparently quite famous. So he actually win the competition to write the 记乐寺那个字这样子. But they don't keep a lot of archive or sketches or draft from the father. I think this is drawn by the father is like 美术字 also, lettering. Very graphical.
Yeah, it's very 60s, 70s.
Yeah, match with the sufa. Sufa is a very important element in our signage. And you can see a lot of good sufa on the signage. So in Penang, we will see a lot of this kind of 牌匾, 堂号. Usually the technique we see on the 堂号 is wood carving, like 牌匾. Usually you will see it like gold lettering on black. But along the road, we will see many different techniques, colors. Kind of black color, greenish letters is copper. Copper is originally bronze, yeah. And then the sign maker put it in the sulfur to oxidize it, so to make it black. And then in Penang, the copper letters will usually have this greenish kind of texture in comparison to KL because it's longer and it's aging, so it has this kind of beauty of color changing.
So this is like proper calligraphic work of art. Yeah, not functional, but yeah, designed to be beautiful.
This is another very beautiful copper lettering. So you can see the greenish black. Personally, I love the figures a lot. If you notice, it's quite rare to see a serif typeface on the signage. 这里的匠人他的手工比较细腻是吗？比较少看到这样细腻的，就是还可以看到肉，还可以看到一个绿色这样子变化。This is my favorite sign of this road. So we call this charcoal lettering. In 中文叫火炭字. They are construction worker, and then they share with me how they make this cement, small stone, and then also charcoal. You can see a lot of charcoal lettering signage in Penang, but then not in KL yet. I haven't found it in KL, so I find it's a unique texture.
It looks like charcoal.
Yeah, this is the new 白苍汤. So you can see the old and the new. This one is made by computer. 右读到左就有那种隔代500这种政府规定，可以看得出来是2015年搬来这里的。
Chichado area. So that area is more industrial, more about having workshops and foundries. So the signage there is really just to say, okay, we're here. This is our address. It's not there to impress. We then moved on to Rangin Road and Siaboi Market, and so that's much more about trade. And so here you're attracting customers, and so you're making bigger, more impressive signage. You put what you sell in the store and things like that. And then we finally came onto Carnarvon Street. It has a completely different function. So it's a street of bookstores. It used to be the street of coffin makers and religious items. So much more to do with culture, traditional culture. And so that's why we see many more calligraphers there, because it makes sense to have the link with traditional calligraphy translated onto signboards.
It's like a gallery or calligraphy on the street.
All the signs we've seen today, none of them are the same. You don't have any two which are exactly the same. Yeah, so we've tried today to show you a variety of different ones, but there are many other streets with many other stories to be told as well. It gives you a type of history of the business, from the very first original carved signboard, more traditional style, to maybe they moved into a new building, and so to celebrate having a new building, they put new signage on it. Sometimes they move location, so it'll change again, and then they bring the old signs and they put it on the new building. So yeah, there's no standard story, but there's always a story there.
Last time you have people that is cycling, so it's more towards on the column, or when you're walking under all this like corridor, then you will see the signage is different layer. So if you're driving, it's at the outside facade. When you're walking at the passageway, you see it's inside the shop or like slightly outside the shop. And if you are like cycling or maybe like Becha that time, then you will see like 2 columns. So you really, because there's like different viewing angles, like maybe the road has changed, then there's already from cycling to walking to car, and then now they have another facade signage on the outside. That's the reason why they keep adding on more. Because not all the signages can be taken out.
Of course, taking out the signage is another cost. When they move away, they don't take out the signage. They will leave it to the new business to remove it. But there's always adding instead of removing it. You could also see some difference. Like in KL, most of the official signs they have Malay language on top. In Penang as well, but you could also see a lot more traditional typography that's embedded in the concrete buildings, because the buildings are retained as part of Penang's heritage. So you get a bit of sign preserved on those facades. Whereas in KL, you don't see that, because when someone take over the building, they just renovated the entire. In Penang, there's a lot more layers. There's a lot more traces of time, like what Joël has shown here. But in KL, it's always get replaced.
The main thing that we want people to do is simply to be aware of these works of art which are outside on the street, because a lot of people are not, you see it every day, you just walk past. But in terms of how we want to do that, definitely walking tours like we've done today. Archiving things is important, right? So taking photographs, documenting them and archiving them whilst they're still there is important. Have the hope to produce printed brochures and leaflets to help people even like walk around by themselves and be able to see some of the stories behind these signs. We can't just preserve these signs and say, okay, don't touch them, they're our history. We also understand that they've always changed, they've always evolved, and we want to continue evolving them. But we want to inspire, if we can, Malaysian designers to build on our own Malaysian design heritage, but to build on what we have and make something which is really a true local vernacular Malaysian typography and design.
It's very hard to define what is Malaysian characteristic on our signage. For me, I feel that we are very multi-facet. 就是很多面嘛 ，maybe multilingual is something 就是比较 generic 这样啦。So for me, I will still use Roger to describe our typography.
It's when all these different elements come together and they're working together. So for me, it wouldn't seem very Malaysian to have a sign which is just one language, just one style, just one color. So kind of minimalist aesthetic that you see sometimes on modern signs doesn't feel very Malaysian to me.
So the signboards that you see are multilingual. But if you go to other locations, outskirts of town centers that are not dominated by Chinese, you don't actually see a lot of multilingual signs. So it is difficult to just, based on whatever that we have shown you, to then characterize Malaysia as having all these identities. That's insufficient. Well, of course, when we talk about typography and signboards, we have to go to these places because these are the places that seem to give certain prominence to the history of science. And that is largely also because Chinese communities place a lot of emphasis on the importance of signboards. Whereas in the Chinese communities, there was this kind of tradition that signboards have to be preserved or you cannot take it down because it's taboo. It's bad for the business.